Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Shayne. I write romance and romantic fiction, and today we're catching up on all things spooky season. So I'm going to be honest, this October has not played out the way I had hoped. I haven't gotten to do a lot of the things that I usually do during this time of year. My tub, faucet, and shower head decided to go out about the same time. So it's like bath or new candles. The bath has to come first. You have the bath, then you can add in the candles and the ambiance. So I'm still working on getting that all figured out, but it's okay because we work with what we got. I have been rewatching the Interview with the Vampire series, the one that AMC did a few years ago, and now it's streaming on Netflix. I am enjoying it so much more now than I did when it first came out. I don't understand why exactly. I think, well, when it first came out a few years ago, I was still like recovering from my illness, so I didn't feel good. So that's probably part of it. Also, it was airing on AMC, which is a commercial TV station, so that story, the way that story is shot, is not designed for a bunch of commercial interruptions. It just doesn't freaking work. And so I think that just ruined the narrative flow of every show. So I kind of felt like I wasn't really getting the impact, or I wasn't really able to sink into the story. Also, that it aired on Sunday night when it first aired. It was Sunday night, which is usually kind of like when I'm, at that time anyway, I was still usually using Sunday night to try to catch up on a bunch of stuff. Oh my gosh, words. And so I was like, during the commercials, I would like get up and do other things like fix meals for the week or whatever. And so then I would miss the beginning of the next scene. That just didn't work. And it is also a show that is the kind of show where you can't really like not pay attention and understand what's going on. Because a lot of times there would be like 2-3 things kind of happening in the dialogue or in the acting. And if you missed it, you missed it. So now that I'm rewatching it, it's like, okay, it's on Netflix. No commercials. Love that. I put on the captions because there's a lot of dialects, because it takes place in New Orleans. And you have Lestat's kind of French accent, and then you have Louis' Creole accent, and then you have all the other accents and Black American accents. And so, and they're not like waiting for you to catch up. Like you gotta pay attention. So I have my captions on this time, which is helping me keep up with what the heck is happening, because a lot of times there'll be actually more than one conversation going on at the same time. So it really helps to have the captions going. And also, imagine this, it helps to just sit and pay attention. What? Don't be trying to do a bunch of other crap while the show's on, is what I'm saying. So I am like really enjoying it this time. Really getting into it. As a matter of fact, I'm like, I've seen all these episodes before, right? But for some reason they're just hitting differently this time. For example, episode 5, I'm not going to say what happens, but if you know, you know. Episode 5 has this like really emotional and tragic and gothic climax where I was getting like all choked up. Like I was literally like the tears were building and they were threatening to fall. And it was like brilliantly, it was this great buildup. Whoever wrote that episode knew what they were doing. It was this thing where it builds up to this really tragic thing, and they bring in the music and all the emotion. And it affects, everything that's happening affects all 3 characters. It's like you can see that this is like kind of a loss of innocence for all 3 characters at the same time. It was so good. I had to rest. I had to take a break after seeing that episode. And I'm like, man, I think I vaguely remember this episode before. But like I said, paying attention and no commercials. Also, I'm just in a better space, I think, this time. Anyway, yeah, there was this one, it was kind of wild to have, like, to see, like, connections between different things that you're watching and reading. So there was this one scene in Interview with a Vampire, I think it's the 2nd episode, so it's after Louis has been turned, and Lestat is kind of showing him the ropes, kind of telling him what it's like now that you're a vampire, and one of the new powers is that you can hear what your prey is thinking. And so he's telling him about that, and Lou's like, really, you can hear other people's thoughts? And Lestat's like, yeah, don't get excited, because it's really boring. All humans think about are, I want food, I want sex, I want to go home. And Lou is like, no, we're more complex than that. And he's like, nah, just listen. So it was kind of funny, because he went on to listen to other people, and all of them were like, I'm hungry, I want food, I want sex, and I want to go home. And it sounds really simple, but when you think about it from like a storytelling point of view, storytelling perspective, it's really a great encapsulation of like 3 very basic primal human needs. And you can start with the basic, like, yeah, I need food. I need to put food on the table. I need money so I can eat, so I can function. But you can even like build it up from there. So if you have that one, if you have like the food, actual food for your body satisfied, then there's other things that humans want, that they need to feed them to feel full and satisfied and thriving. So that can be like, I need things to feed my mind. I need things to feed my curiosity. I need things to satisfy my boredom. So that's like the I want food part. And then the I want sex, it could be the basic primal lust, right? Which, no shade, I mean, that's what that's what makes life interesting. That's what actually is the base. That's usually the thing. A lot of times the thing that makes people step outside of their comfort zone is the desire for sex. But it can even be not even just sex, but it can be intimacy. It can be excitement. It can be connection. It can be feeling good. All of those things. And then the I want to go home, that is just basic standard. I want safety. I want protection. I want to be in a space where I can relax and be myself. And so I was thinking about that when I started reading. I'm on a Gothic classics kick this year. Started off at the beginning of the year. I reread Dracula because of Nosferatu, the new adaptation that came out. And then I decided that I wanted to actually go back and read the original classic, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. And I realized that when I read it, that I actually have only read like, I think kids adaptations of the story, you know, some little adapted or abridged storybook versions that have pictures and stuff. And of course, I also started watching, you know what, I never saw the 1990s adaptation with Johnny Depp. Never saw that one. I know. But I had started watching the series that came out a few years ago. There was a series called Sleepy Hollow, that I really enjoyed. Back in the day when Twitter was a fun place to be on, I would be on Twitter with all the other Sleepy Hollow lovers, and we'd be talking and about the show. But I ended up giving up on the show like about season 2, because the creators of the show really didn't understand that a significant portion of their core audience were women, particularly Black women, who were very invested in the relationship between Abby and Ichabod. And they just kept fucking that up, to be honest. And I was like, I can't take it anymore. It was like, you do not understand who you're serving here. So I didn't finish watching that show, unfortunately. But anyway, I decided, let's go back to the original source. Let's actually go and read the original Legend of Sleepy Hollow. And when I was listening to it, which was a great time, I would take my walk, because I would be taking my walks, and it was when the seasons were changing, and listening to all this amazing like descriptions of nature. Nature was a big deal back in the olden days. And it was just so like immersive to listen to these beautiful descriptions. Like I could feel it. I could see it in my mind. And also it is a very, even though it's spooky and it's a spooky like tale, it's also very cozy. I'm like, oh, this is why in the fall we love all the cozy things. It's because way back in the day, I mean, it just goes back to the beginning of time. We want to be warm. We want to be protected. We want to have like a little bit of thrill and excitement, but then we want to know that we can come in out of the cold and cozy up and connect with our other people and tell stories and be comfortable and fed and warm and just like, chill, you know, because Ichabod is a school teacher, And I'm like, the whole thing of like not really looking out for our school teachers has been going on for a while, because Ichabod is a school teacher and he has to sort of rely on the hospitality of the parents of the kids that he's teaching in order to live. So he's kind of like bouncing from house to house. And there are these descriptions of like him coming in, and when he has to walk, like wherever he's staying, when he has to walk from the schoolhouse to wherever it is that he's staying for the night, he's having to walk at night. There were no like street lights back then, flashlights. He doesn't have anything to really guide him except just sort of knowing the way, and it's dark. So there's all these descriptions of him trying to get from the schoolhouse to home. I want to go home. And it's dark and spooky. And he's also always like, when he finds like a place that he's staying, there's like these descriptions of coming in and smelling all the pies and pumpkin pies and apple pies that are baking. These descriptions of him like coming in out of the dark, out of the cold, and sitting at the fire with like the woman who was running the house of whatever house he's staying at, and she's cooking, and there's all these amazing smells, and then she's feeding him pie. I want food. And I'm like, this is where all of our desire for coziness comes from. All the apples and the pumpkins and the spices and the warm drinks and the coming in out of the cold and bundling up with the sweaters. It's getting a little chilly here, so I got my sweater, and sitting by the fire and telling stories at the end of the day. That's where it all comes from. And then, of course, he meets the love interest. What now? I want sex. Well, he also wants food. I think he's interested in her because he's interested in like the comfort and the excitement of human companionship, but he also wants food. He wants a place to stay. He's like, if I marry her, I'll be well fed. That's what he's thinking, because she's the daughter of this like rich farmer. And I'll have a nice place to stay all the time instead of having to bounce from whoever will put me up for the night. And, of course, I'll have sex, theoretically. So there's this line that I want to read because it's just so funny. Because I think it like, it hits all of the points that we're talking about. I remember like I was taking my walk and I was all caught up in like the story of like the legends of this little town and all of the coziness and the nature and walking and trying to get from one place to another safely. And I was coming around this curve in the sidewalk to where there's this long row of trees, and I was listening, and I'm like, I think I know where this is going. And when it landed, I was just like, that was awesome. Here we go. All these, however, were mere terrors of the night, phantoms of the mind that walk in darkness. And though he had seen many specters in his time, and been more than once beset by Satan in diverse shapes in his lonely perambulations, yet daylight put an end to all these evils, and he would have passed a pleasant life of it, in despite of the devil and all his works, if his path had not been crossed by a being that causes more perplexity to mortal man than ghosts, goblins, and the whole race of witches put together, and that was a woman. Still makes me laugh. I'm like, oh, I could see that coming around the bend, and it still just cracked me up. I mean, yeah, I know, it's gendered, sexist as hell, right? However, it's really just talking about how all of these things that scare us and confound us are never as scary or perplexing as like trying to figure out the person that you're trying to connect with, particularly if it's a romantic and sexual connection, because that just adds all these other layers of things that can be scary and destructive, maybe. Anyway, Legend of Sleepy Hollow, great time. And another thing that was really cool about listening to the story is when you get to the climax, and we all know what that climax is, poor Ichabod, I was like listening to it and I could see it vividly, and I realized as I was like picturing it in my mind, I'm like, this is because of those storybooks that had these really great illustrations of these scenes that are just like burned into our brain forever. So anyway, Legend of Sleepy Hollow, great time. listening to that. And to continue on this classic Gothic tales kick, I also started rereading Frankenstein. Because, why? Because Guillermo del Toro is coming out with an adaptation this year with Oscar Isaac and Jacob Elordi. I mean, say less. This is happening. So I'm like, you know what? This is a great time to reread Frankenstein, which I have not read since I was in high school. And I'm like, I'm sure I forgot most of it. The only thing I remember about reading it in high school was that it was very different than like all the movie portrayals of Frankenstein, of the story. And I remember thinking, it's a toss-up who the actual monster is when you read the original story. Is it the scientist or the creation? That's a lot to think about, like, and what creates evil? Also, that story brings up those questions. So I'm rereading that, and I think it's going to happen. I think I'm going to get it done in time. I know that there's a limited release of the movie, but I don't think it's coming here at a time when I can see it. I think it's only playing at one day, one showing at one theater, and I'm like, yeah, I can't make that one because it's during the workday. But when it comes out on Netflix, man, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be prepared because I really want to see that version. It's kind of hit or miss with me. Hit or miss for me with Guillermo del Toro, because sometimes it's like, I wasn't so sure about that. I wasn't that crazy about The Shape of Water. I had a coworker who loved Pan's Labyrinth, and I sat down and watched it, and I'm like, that was dark AF. How is it you enjoyed that so much? But, you know, it came on. You know what I watched the other day was his movie Crimson Peak. I did see that when it came out in the theater. It was 2015. I'm like, yeah, it was a while ago. It was back in the day when we still waited in line to get our tickets. I kind of miss those days because I remember waiting in line and looking at the showings and being like, what is this RPX thing? Because I think I saw it in RPX, which was like a bigger screen and more stadium seating. I think that's the difference. Anyway, I remember seeing it and going, yeah, that was wild. So I rewatched it the other night because it's Friday. I'm like, I don't feel like going out. I'm going to watch a movie from home. And it showed up on the Amazon Prime feed. I'm like, hey, let's check out Crimson Peak. This is perfect. It's Gothic. I've seen it before. So it'll be like visiting an old friend. Again, kind of like with Interview with a Vampire, I enjoyed it a lot more seeing it now than I did when I saw it a few years ago. I don't know why. Like, I had forgotten. Like, it didn't really hit me as much when I saw it the first time what a cool character the main character is. What a cool character that she is. Cannot remember her name. I can't remember anybody's name. I just remember thinking, oh, she's really cool. Like, she is one of those, it was a nice little twist on a sort of Gothic heroine because she was very bookish, which I loved, but she was also very sort of quietly determined, which I also liked. Very assertive, but in a very quiet and secure way. And she also, like the way she dealt with when she started seeing the ghosts, when she gets to Crimson Peak and starts seeing the ghosts, I really like how you see that she's had experience with ghosts. Like, this is a thing that she's lived with since she was a kid. So her reaction to it was that of kind of familiarity and also like, okay, there is something going on here. But it wasn't like abject terror or like foolishness because she's had experience with ghosts before. So I really enjoyed her character. And the twists were like, yeah, these are classic kind of Gothic twists in this movie. And the imagery is great. I just really enjoyed it. I had a great time rewatching that movie and appreciating the storytelling. I mean, there was one kind of like weird like close up of like the ants and the butterfly that was like, this is what this director does. And it's like, did we really need that? But okay, it's fine because all the other stuff was really great. So I really enjoyed watching Crimson Peak. It was just a really great revisitation of like a modern Gothic tale. And speaking of Gothic tales, let's catch up on what has been happening with the Gothtober Readathon. As I've said I've sort of explained in a couple other videos, I am taking part in the Gothtober Readathon here that's being hosted by some other YouTubers. And I am working through, hitting those prompts, checking off boxes. I did a short on the possession of Alba Díaz because I did finish that one, and that one checked off the BIPOC rep and the buried secrets and multiple POV because it was told in 2 points of view. I finished that. I also finished Phantom, and that one checked off the comfort trope because there is a whole thing where the hero comes in and sort of rescues the heroine when she's having a panic disorder and comforts her and takes care of her. And it also checks off the disability rep trope because actually it turns out that both characters have a disability. So that was really cool. Really enjoyed that. And I am still working my way through Rebecca. I have a feeling I'm not going to get it finished, but that's okay because my goal is to finish that book by the end of the year, and that will happen, but I don't think I'm going to get it finished in time for Gothtober Readathon deadline. But I'm still plugging my way through that, and that is the one that checks off the secondhand, well-worn prompt. And then what else am I reading? Besides Frankenstein, I added that one because circumstances, events are happening. I'm also reading, I started, because this is the check for the cozy fantasy. I started That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon, that book that everybody has read except me. I'm thoroughly enjoying it. It is so funny. It's very voicey. I'm hoping that one's kind of a quick read, so I'm hoping to get that one done. And then there's one left. I'm going to also, I just got Sweet Obsession, which is the latest book in the Dark Olympus series by Katee Robert, and it's the one that I need to read before the next book comes out in December. So that one checks off the LGBTQ plus rep. So yeah, it remains to be seen how successful I will be at completing this readathon. But it's the work that counts. It's the getting in there and trying new books that you wouldn't normally read, and trying to hold yourself, trying to stay on task, trying to not do the, pretty bird, which I do all the time. I want to read this. There's literally like 20 books I want to read right now, but it's got to stay on track here. So that's kind of what I've been up to this spooky season. Let me know in the comments what you have been watching or reading this October, and until next time, bye!